On today's episode, we're going to make a classic American lunch dish that has two bitter families claiming rightful ownership. With both families sharing their last name with the name of the dish, one can understand why. This century-old favorite has huge cultural range and shows up everywhere from fine hotel dining menus to your local neighborhood pub. Today, my friends, is all about the classic Reuben sandwich on I Can Teach You How to Make That. Hey folks, here we go again. Today we get to make one of the most delicious hot sandwiches working the lunch circuit today, the Reuben. I've always felt that each of the ingredients of the Reuben sandwich are like bold characters from a 70s rock band, all trying to play louder than the next in order to get noticed. From the spicy mustard to the sauerkraut and then the corned beef, each of these components have their own bold flavor profile, but when brought together, it's like hearing music for the first time, but with your mouth. Keep in mind this isn't a sneak it home on your lunch break and whip it together kind of sandwich, and more of a lazy Sunday start making it when you're not that hungry type of sandwich. The corned beef itself has a minimum 2-hour cooking time, so you've been warned. Okay, are you ready to turn your kitchen into a New York deli? Let's get it started then by grabbing our ingredients for today's dish.
Oh yeah, I know you want it!
Let's head to the meat section in the back of Safeway and grab our maple leaf corned beef. They don't make the corned beef hard to find, but they don't make it easy either. You'll find it over in the cured meat sections, wedged between the kubasa and the bacon. All of its neighbors are pork products, so if you were like me and went looking for it in the beef section, you'd be mistaken. Walk yourself over to the produce section and grab yourself one small bag of the fresh sauerkraut. You'll really like the texture that fresh sauerkraut brings to the table. There's nothing wrong with the product in the jar, but this is just better. Push your cart over to the condiment section and we're going to grab some mustard. Choosing a jar of mustard is very much like choosing a bottle of wine. It's all based on personal taste. I use the Keen's mustard. They've been around since the 1800s and their mustard game is dialed in pretty tight. It has a lot of horsepower in the heat department, but still has a lot of sophistication in its flavor. On the shelf right next door to the mustards should be the salad dressing. Go right near the bottom of the floor and grab one bottle of Russian, put it in your cart. Hike on over to the meat and cheese section and grab one package of Swiss. If you have a few extra minutes to kill, ask the friendly deli attendant behind the counter to slice you some fresh Swiss cheese if you so desire. Pack up your things, we're going to head to the opposite end of the store and hit the bakery. Every component of this sandwich is crucial and the bread plays a major role. This is where this shopping trip takes an exciting turn. The Reuben sandwich calls for rye bread. Not only does Safeway's bakery section provide fresh rye bread, it provides a fresh rye bread section. I grabbed one loaf pumpernickel and one loaf original Winnipeg rye. Okay, we have our ingredients. Let's do a little sandwich making. And here's our list of kitchen tools we'll need for today's project. You'll need one stainless steel pot, a cutting board, a chef's knife, a mixing bowl, a wire whip, a sandwich press, or a George Foreman grill. And because we're making sandwiches, there's no exact recipe. But here's the list of groceries you'll want in front of you. You'll want your maple leaf corned beef, rye bread, Swiss cheese, spicy mustard, Russian dressing, and your sauerkraut. We're going to get started by taking our large stainless steel pot, filling it up 3/4 of the way with water. Move your pot from your sink over to your stove onto its largest burner. Set your stove to medium and add a couple pinches of salt to your water. Next, we're going to remove our brisket out of the bag and put it into our salted pot of water. The recipe on the label calls for you to boil it in the bag. I'll be very honest, I'm not a fan. I'm not going to go into details here, but if you really want to know, ask me in the comment section and I can explain why there. We're going to throw a lid on our pot and let it simmer on medium for 2 hours. If you have guests coming over in the evening, start your corned beef in the afternoon. It can sit in its own hot simmering brine water for a long time. The longer we simmer it, the more it breaks down the connective tissue, ultimately giving us a very tender, succulent brisket. I didn't tell you to pick up any mayonnaise because the next step is optional. I like to cut my Russian dressing with about 50% mayonnaise, just makes it a little smoother in the sandwich. I'll leave that part completely up to you. Next, we're going to prepare our sauerkraut by draining it in the sink. Be sure to be very diligent on this step. Really squeeze all the brine water out of this pickled cabbage. If we were washing lettuce for a sandwich, we would make sure it was very dry as to not make our bread soggy. This follows the same principle. Next, preheat your sandwich press to high. Once your brisket has rested in its own water for a minimum of 20 minutes, transfer it onto a plate. Next, we're going to pre-toast our bread in our sandwich press. As I mentioned in Safeway, I bought 2 different types of rye bread. By using 1 slice of each in my sandwich, we get a bit of a black and tan effect that you get when pouring a pint of beer with Guinness and a lager. And I have to make special mention of my Cuisinart Griddler Deluxe. There's nothing wrong with a George Foreman grill, but this thing is unreal. It feels like it gets about 30% hotter, which is huge when you want a well-defined crust. Add that to the fact that the metal grill bar plates are removable, and I just toss them in the dishwasher when I'm finished cooking. This makes the Cuisinart Griddler Deluxe one of my favorite tools in my kitchen. You can't put a George Foreman in the dishwasher, but I bet there's someone trying right now while you're watching this video. Okay, let's transfer our lightly toasted bread over to our cutting board and start assembling our ingredients. Place your Swiss cheese on the outer portions of the sandwich, as it'll add protection to the bread from any type of moisture from the corned beef or the sauerkraut. Next, spread your flavor condiments onto your cheese. That means the hot mustard and the Russian dressing. Transfer your brisket over to your cutting board and we're going to start to slice our corned beef. I'm going to get you to slice the corned beef as thin as you can with your chef's knife. If it's still too hot to the touch, don't sweat it. Let it rest for a few more minutes. Start by cutting it in half. We want to cut against the grain so the meat will pull apart delicately. If we cut this brisket in the other direction, we'll have a full 2 days of chewing ahead of us. Once you're done slicing your corned beef, grab a small handful of the sauerkraut, pop it in the microwave for about 45 seconds to bring it up to temperature. Take some of your sliced corned beef and your hot sauerkraut, put it inside your sandwich. The ratio I like to use, 3 parts corned beef, 1 part sauerkraut. Close them up and generously apply some soft butter to either side, and let's get them in the press. You'll find that applying the soft butter is a lot cleaner if you do it in 2 parts. 1 part on the cutting board, the other part in your sandwich press. Once both sides are generously covered in the soft butter, we're ready to close our press. Your sandwiches shouldn't take any longer than 3 or 4 minutes, so keep a real close eye on them. All you want is a nice toasted crust from the butter to hit the rye bread. Remember, all of your internal ingredients are already hot, so all we're trying to do is melt the cheese and bring all of our ingredients to the same temperature. Give it a slice, grab some pickles and some potato chips, and we're ready for action. So there you have it, the classic Reuben. Here are the 5 key points to making this timeless deli sandwich a success at home. Number 1, use a quality brisket. If you don't have the 5 days to cure your own, grab a maple leaf corned beef from your local grocery store. It's a solid choice. Number 2, slow cooking of the brisket. If you don't have 3 hours to kill, this isn't the sandwich for you. Number 3, rye bread. I use 2 different types to bring separate flavor components. Choose your rye to fit your tastes. Number 4, hot mustard. I'm a fan of Keen's. If your pleasure centers haven't been erased like mine and have a bit more of a delicate sensibility, try using a Grey Poupon Dijon. And number 5, have a solid sandwich press. If you have a George Foreman, use it. If you want to up your game, use the Cuisinart like the one I'm using. I use it for fish, meats, everything. I've provided a link to my Amazon store below. Make someone's Christmas by buying them one so they can make you a Reuben sandwich.
So, how did it go? I'm curious. If you burnt your toast or you sliced your beef wrong, restart the video, wash your dishes, and fire it up again. Not that big a deal. I hope you enjoyed making these Reuben sandwiches as much as I enjoyed explaining it. Until next time, I'm David Husero on I Can Teach You How to Make That. Bye for now.